Hello, my name is Brittany and I'm a zookeeper or animal care professional here at Assiniboine Park Zoo. With me today is Noodle, who is a corn snake who lives in Toucan Ridge. Noodle is a corn snake that came to us from Winnipeg Animal Services, and her role here at the zoo is to meet people and to help people learn about snakes. For me, education is incredibly important to what we do here at the zoo, mainly because it relates back to a fairly famous quote by Baba Dayam, who was a Senegalese forestry engineer. He once said in the 1960s that in the end, we will conserve only what we love, we will love only what we understand, and that we will understand only what we have been taught. And so for me, being able to teach people about animals, especially animals like Noodle here, who are maybe a little bit more misunderstood, that people don't know as much about, is an amazing way to help people become a little bit more passionate about animals in the wild and potentially do things in their own lives to protect them. Ultimately, I would argue you don't have to love snakes, you don't have to be super passionate about them. It's okay if you're not, just as long as you don't go out of your way to harm them in the wild, because snakes are usually very predictable, safe animals to be around as long as you give them distance. If you look at her head, she's missing two things that we human beings tend to have on each side of our faces, and those are ears. Snakes have the inner bones that make up an ear, so they can hear really low frequency sounds and vibrations to a certain extent, but they can't hear the same things we hear. And so to hunt their food, they have to use a different sense, and that is primarily their sense of smell. They can use their eyes a little bit too, but most snake species tend to be nearsighted. Their eyes don't work as well as ours might, and so their sense of smell is how they'll catch their delicious food, which tends to be things for a corn snake, like rodents or small birds. And you can tell that she's smelling because even though she has two little nostrils on the tip of her nose, and she can smell with those nostrils. Snakes smell differently than us. They can smell by sticking out their tongues, so she's not being rude to everyone if you're watching this video. She's just trying to smell and figure out what's going on around her, since that's her best sense. When it comes to teaching people about animals, I do have two different answers to the question of what is my favorite animal. I love snakes, again, because they're incredibly misunderstood. People just don't know that much about them. And as a result of this, a lot of people fear and sometimes even hate them. And human persecution, which is to say people going out of their way to do harm to snakes in the wild, is one of the biggest threats that they face. And so teaching people about them can really help them out. But when it comes to working with an animal, I love the parrots. The parrots are really smart, they learn things quickly, and they have such big personalities. I find zookeeping to be a wonderful profession because it's a really good mix of physical work. We have to be moving around and doing lots of things all the time, whether it's racing around to try and make sure all the animals are well cared for, or moving heavy objects from one place to another. There's a lot of that. The job definitely keeps us busy physically, but I also really like that it's an intellectual job. We always have to be thinking, and we always have to be learning. If we're not learning about the animals under our care and staying up to date with any changes, anything new that might be happening, so that we can improve how we look after the creatures, then we're not doing our job very well. So I love that there's both a physical and an intellectual component to what we have to do as zookeepers.